Good morning, everybody. I'm feeding chickens at the neighbors. I kind of keep chickens over here because where I live, I can't have them. But I got a comment today about Via's Naipaul, and it is interesting how he got so trashed, and that I had no idea that he had this reputation, and how he wrote about how much he really appreciated his own life and his benefits from having the British school appear, and how much it helped his own life. And he really has this very pure sense to him. He's written a lot of travel books as well. I shouldn't say travel books. They're not like, oh, stay at this hotel or anything, but books, about traveling the world and seeing what he sees. And he would sometimes it seems like, later on I would read, he would really get in trouble for writing about what he saw. And a lot of his books are just so different from each other. Like one will be about the history of Trinidad, and then there was another book that I kind of thought of today that he had written called Gorillas, and it was about he had seen like one clipping in a newspaper before getting on a plane about a story, and he basically, fleshed the rest of it out in his mind. So it was fiction taken from like a one paragraph story about a very wealthy British, I believe. Maybe she was American. For some reason, I feel she was English. Kind of woman, young woman who was found buried on the land of this kind of super leftist kind of guerrilla commune way up in the hills of somewhere, Jamaica. It's like I can't remember the story now, but it was this like horrific, brutal murder, and there really was no reason for it. She was sort of on their side and had donated her whole trust fund to kind of keep these people going, but it was like there was kind of so much anger or whatever in their leftist heartless hearts that they kind of brutalized her. And I think he kind of saw this as a metaphor of something, and he wrote a lot about his travels to India, because that was where his family originally had been from, and he was really appalled at how some of it was. And so he did write about appreciating his own interaction with the British. And so, I don't know, later on I just realized and found out that the reason why most people didn't even know about him was he was being like so suppressed. He was just considered like, you're evil, you're bad. You liked your English school and appreciated what came forth for you, for your own life from them. And here, what is the left to do with this? With someone who says, hey, they came into town and I got, a nice little khaki outfit and a little knapsack, and I got to be with other people, and I got to learn. And I believe that, he may not have even realized it, but his teacher was sending his stories to kind of just different academic places in England, and he ended up getting a scholarship, which was truly unbelievable to him. It was like a golden ticket, and so he writes about all over the world, really, where he was traveling and what he really did see. And I had not realized that there was actually like a fatwa put out on him long before Salman Rushdie, because he'd been sent to some country, by some, go to this country and write about it. And, he was horrified by what he saw, and just wrote about how horrific it was. And, it wasn't going, oh, the swimming pools here are great or whatever. And it was, very militant country that he ended up just becoming, in so much trouble for. And it's sad because he is just such a direct writer. He's not done a lot about the U.S. He did one book called A Turn in the South, and it was very interesting because he stayed with, like people that lived out in the sticks, and kind of urinated off their porches in the morning, and he saw this kind of tribal independence with the kind of the good old boy thing, and there was like a non-materialism there, and a sort of nobleness about people he found that lived out in the country and who were strong and adept and had good senses of humor. So it's very interesting to read him. You never always know what you're going to find, but he puts a lot of thought into everything. And he's not running around saying that he feels that he was victimized by the British. And he does write about, of course, some of the really horrific aspects that came with colonization. That was more about the Spanish, however, and this kind of bloody take that they really were having on things. So there's this interesting, I always found that interesting too, that when I lived in New Mexico as a child, that Spanish was okay and British was bad. And then as I started going back and learning things in history, Spanish was, much more violent. And I wondered, why is it like better to speak Spanish? Because there was so much brutality. And, like Naipaul said, of course the British were super greedy too, but at least they had, artists on the ship, people who were interested in what the birds look like. It wasn't just this 100% go for the gold kind of thing. It's a rather bucolic morning here. It was cloudy at night, but it feels like sun is about to come out. This is a blueberry patch in the summertime, but it appears that they're finding something here. It's funny, I sort of feel like Naipaul in Trinidad, just standing here with the chickens. What his childhood was like in that sort of bucolic setting. And there they go. And remember, two are sort of new, unknown chickens that just showed up out of the blue. And that's been rather interesting as well. So good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. And have a fabulosos super